Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I've been camping most of my life. I know the smell of pine sap on cold nights, the cracking of branches, the rhythm of forest wind like a slow pulse. I know what feels normal out there in the dark. What happened last summer near Bitterroot Forest wasn't normal. It wasn't even close. I reached the campsite late, 9:45 p.m., maybe a little earlier. The sky still held a dim orange bruise of sunset, fading behind the tree line. I was tired, too tired to pay attention to the way the woods had gone unnaturally still. No chirping, no rustling, not even a passing breeze. The whole world seemed to be holding its breath. But exhaustion is a louder voice than instinct, and mine whispered, just sleep. Everything's fine. I set up my tent on a patch of level ground a few feet off the main trail. Tossed my backpack inside, kicked off my boots, crawled into my sleeping bag like a man diving into warmth after a long day. The nylon shell of the tent rattled a little when I shifted. I let my eyes close. Sometime after midnight, I woke up with a strange heaviness pressing into my spine. At first, I thought it was the ground, roots, maybe, a rock I hadn't noticed. But the pressure wasn't solid. It was moving, rising and falling. Slow, rhythmic, breathing. I held perfectly still, my brain caught between dream and reality. The air inside the tent felt suddenly dense, stale. My heart thudded once, hard, and everything inside me sharpened. Then I heard it, a soft, shaky exhale directly beneath me. I froze. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. My skin went cold in one horrifying wave. There is something uniquely wrong about hearing another human being breathe inches under your body when you're supposed to be alone. I lower my hand, slowly, like I was trying not to startle a wild animal. My palm pressed gently to the tent floor. A chest swelled against my hand. Not the earth, not an animal, a man, a full human body, lying underneath my tent, between the tarp and the ground, as if he had crawled there while I slept. We stayed like that, him breathing, me frozen, held in some awful silence where even the forest refused to make a sound. The only noise was the steady inhale and exhale beneath me. After maybe a minute, the breathing changed. Faster, shakier, almost excited. And then it happened. A hand pressed upward, palm flat, directly into the middle of my back. A rough, muddy hand. I felt each finger, felt the tremor in them, felt the pressure increasing, as if you were testing something or testing me. That broke me. I exploded out of the sleeping bag and tore through the tent flap. No shoes, no flashlight, just panic and adrenaline and the kind of fear that doesn't give you time to think. I sprinted blindly through the trees, branches slapping my arms, rocks biting into my bare feet. I didn't look back. Didn't want to see whatever was clawing its way out from underneath my tent. I didn't stop until I stumbled onto the access road, gasping like I'd been drowning. I stayed there until sunrise, shaking, waiting for someone, anyone, to drive by. Finally, a Ranger Jeep rolled up, and I waved it down like a man begging for salvation. When I told them what happened, they didn't laugh. They didn't even look surprised. Just exchanged a glance that made my stomach drop. When we reached my campsite, the tent looked like a gutted animal. The floor was slashed wide open from beneath. Long cuts, deliberate, like someone had clawed their way upward. The rangers searched the area and found muddy footprints, bare, wide strides circling the tent. And one more thing. A torn strip of red flannel caught on a root beneath the tent's underside, as if someone had dragged their body out from the hollow they'd been lying in. The ranger crouched down, studied the dirt, then stood and said, "This isn't the first report. People hear things at night, but he's never been caught." He, not they, nodded. He, like they already knew him, like he'd been doing this for a long, long time. I asked if they were going to track him, arrest him, something. One ranger sighed and said, "He knows these woods better than we do." That was the end of it. They packed up what was left of my gear and drove me out. I didn't argue. I just sat there, staring at my torn tent, replaying the feeling of that rising chest, that trembling hand pushing against my spine as if he'd been waiting for me to wake up. Maybe he wanted me to know he was there. Maybe he liked it. Maybe he was disappointed when I ran. I don't know. I don't want to know. But I do know this. Someone lay beneath me for hours, watching me, listening to me breathe, matching my every inhale. Someone who moves silently through the forest. Someone who still hasn't been caught. Someone who waits. I haven't camped alone since. And when I lie in bed at night, in the safety of my own house, sometimes I swear I feel that same slow pressure beneath me, rising and falling, as if someone's still there, still breathing with me, still waiting. Story 2. 3 years ago, my cousins and I went camping near Pine Lake, a place that looks peaceful in photos, but the forest there has a strange way of swallowing sound. You laugh, but once you're inside those trees, your own breathing feels too loud. That's the first thing I remember about that night. How quiet everything felt, like the whole forest was holding its breath. We got there late evening, set up the tents, grilled some food, made dumb jokes only cousins understand. By the time the fire burned down to soft orange embers, we were relaxed enough to forget the world. Then Leo, who never notices anything unless it's food or Wi-Fi, suddenly froze and pointed toward the tree line. "Who's that girl?" I followed his finger and saw her. She was standing between two pines, her back to us, wearing an oversized orange hoodie. Hood up, head slightly drooped, perfectly still, like she'd grown out of the ground. At first we thought she was a lost hiker. People get turned around near Pine Lake all the time. So we called out, nothing aggressive, just a, "Hey, you okay?" But she didn't answer, didn't move, didn't even tilt her head. Leo grabbed the flashlight and pointed it at her. That's when she moved. It wasn't a normal movement. Not a flinch, not a turn. She ducked, no, dropped behind a tree, so fast it looked unnatural, like someone cut a frame out of video. 1 second she was there, the next she was gone, swallowed by the dark. We all exchanged looks, the kind where nobody says anything, but everyone is thinking the same thing. That wasn't right. Still, we weren't exactly going to go searching for a creepy girl in the dark woods. So we let it go, or pretended to, and crawled into our tents. I fell asleep fast, but something dragged me out of it. A sound, soft, faint, regular, leaves crunching. At first I thought it was an animal, but animals don't move like that. This was slow, deliberate, walking in a wide circle around our tents. Step, pause, step, pause, like someone choosing where to stand. My heart thudded in my throat. I unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. She was there, the girl in the orange hoodie. Only now, she wasn't standing. She was crouched beside Leo's tent, her face almost pressed to the mesh window. Her back was hunched so sharply it looked painful, like her bones were rearranged. Her head was tilted at an impossible angle, too far, like it was hanging on by a thread. Her eyes were wide open, white, so much white, and her pupils, massive, swallowing everything. I whispered, "Hey," without thinking. A stupid, useless reflex. She snapped her head toward me with a crack so sharp I felt it in my teeth. Her neck turned too fast, too brutal, like something inside her was broken and didn't care. Her eyes locked onto mine. Empty, hollow, hungry. She rose from the ground in one strange, jerking motion and ran. No, launched herself into the trees. The sound she made wasn't footsteps. It was like branches whipping the air. None of us slept after that. We sat inside our tents until sunrise, every minute stretched tight with fear. When light finally seeped through the trees, we packed up fast. None of us talked, but everyone wanted to leave. Still, curiosity is a disease we humans never recover from. We went back to the spot where she first stood. At the base of that tree were deep scratches, long, desperate marks dug into the bark like someone tried to claw their way out of it. And carved into the trunk, uneven and shaky, was a message. "Don't let me out again." Leo backed away like the tree itself might grab him. We didn't stick around to analyze it. We just walked, fast, back to the car. Later, when we told the authorities, they didn't laugh. They didn't call us crazy. They just got quiet. A girl had gone missing in those woods 2 years before. 15 years old. Last seen wearing an orange hoodie. They said the search teams went deep into Pine Lake Forest, but found nothing. No body. No clothes. Not even footprints after the first half mile. Like she had simply vanished. They never found her. But she found us. And sometimes, when I'm trying to sleep, I hear those same slow, deliberate footsteps in my head. Leaves crunching. Step. Pause. Step. Pause. And I wonder, does she ever really leave the woods? Or is she still out there, crouched somewhere, head tilted, waiting for someone to notice her again? Story 3. 2 months ago, Jonah and I drove into the Black Elk Wilderness with the kind of confidence only two idiots can have when they think they're braver than the dark. We knew the area was restricted. We knew winter camping there was reckless. But when you're young, stubborn, and hungry for a story to brag about later, common sense doesn't speak loud enough. By late evening, the forest looked like a place the sun had forgotten existed. Trees packed tight, their branches heavy under snow, the sky low and bruised. We pitched our tents beside a cluster of dead pines, the ground frozen so hard that every step felt like cracking bones underfoot. Our breath hung in the air like little ghosts. We joked for a bit, ate cold sandwiches, talked about nothing important. But when the night settled, a kind of silence came over the woods, a silence so deep that it felt wrong. It wasn't peaceful. It wasn't calm. It felt like the whole forest was holding its breath, waiting for something. Around 2 a.m., that something arrived. A whistle drifted out from the trees. 3 notes, Slow, clear, almost gentle. I sat up so fast I nearly ripped my sleeping bag. Jonah unzipped his tent and stuck his head out. "You hear that?" he whispered. "It's a whistle," I said, as if stating it made it less terrifying. We listened. A few seconds passed. Then, the same three notes again. It didn't echo. It didn't fade. It just sat in the air, perfectly shaped, like someone was standing 10 feet away, blowing it directly toward us. We looked at each other. Maybe a hiker. Maybe another camper ignoring the restrictions like we did. That was the only explanation that felt reasonable. Until we walked. We stepped away from the tents, crunching through the snow, moving toward where we thought the sound came from. But the whistle didn't change. Not in volume. Not in distance. It stayed the exact same, like it was anchored in place, following us without following us at all. "Feels like it's watching us," Jonah muttered under his breath. "It," I whispered back. "I don't know. Whatever." We got spooked and went back to camp. Jonah, who can sleep through thunder, eventually dozed off. But I stayed awake. I don't know why. Maybe instinct. Maybe fear. Maybe something in those whistles reached into my head and scratched a message I couldn't ignore. At 3:17 a.m., I remember the exact time because I was staring at my phone's dim screen. The whistle came again. But this time, it wasn't coming from the woods. It was behind our tent. 3 notes. Softer. Warmer. Close enough that I heard the breath pushing between each note. My skin tightened. My heart crawled into my throat. It didn't feel like someone was whistling to get our attention. It felt like someone was answering a call that had been waiting all night. I reached for the zipper. Slowly. Quietly. Trying not to make the nylon rustle. Jonah woke up. "Don't," he whispered, his voice shaking. "Please don't open it." But then the whistle came again, right beside my ear on the other side of the tent wall. I could almost feel the lips behind it, the warmth of breath bleeding through the thin fabric. Something in me broke. I didn't unzip the tent. I didn't pack up anything. I just ran. Jonah ran right behind me. We crashed through the snow like terrified animals, sprinting toward the car. We didn't stop until we were locked inside, gasping, shivering, watching the forest like something might step out. We slept there in bursts, if you can call it sleep, until morning light smeared itself over the trees. When we asked the rangers to escort us back, they didn't seem surprised. That should have been the first warning sign. When we reached our campsite, the snow around the tents wasn't untouched like we left it. It was destroyed. Footprints, bare feet, long toes, dragging heel, walked tight circles around our tents. Not once or twice. Dozens of times. The paths were carved deep, almost frenzied. One ranger crouched down, trailing his gloved fingers along a print. He didn't speak right away. When he did, his voice was so quiet it barely existed. "These aren't new," he said. "These tracks, they were here long before the snowfall last night. They've been circling for hours before you two even showed up." I felt something cold inside me, colder than the snow, colder than the night we ran through. Because that meant the whistler wasn't drawn to us. It had been waiting, watching, walking in those slow circles, rehearsing those 3 notes long before we ever arrived. And every now and then, when I'm lying in bed late at night, I swear I still hear it. 3 notes, slow and clear, coming from somewhere out in the dark, as if whatever was behind our tents in the Black Elk Wilderness never stopped watching, never stopped waiting, and finally learned how to follow me home.